This is A10, roots in factored form. So this is the beginning of A10, and it happens to be probably my favorite part of Algebra 2, which is solving quadratic functions. Okay, so before we do that, we need to understand what our solutions represent. And this is my favorite part because what these solutions represent, we could be given a variety of word problems and projectile motion problems that we'll see in future videos, and just a bunch of real-world applications and solutions that we can use. Okay, so in A9 we factored polynomials to break them down into more manageable parts. In this standard, we are concerned with factors still and roots. Okay, so before we discuss what roots are, let's look at an example of a factored quadratic. So pause the video if you need more time. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. Okay, so we have b plus 2 times b minus 6, and we set it equal to 0. So notice that this quadratic equals 0. So we have two factors, one being b plus 2 and the other being b minus 6, being multiplied together, and their product is 0. So if we have two things being multiplied to equal 0, what does one of the factors have to equal? Well, 0, because anything times 0 is 0. Okay, so that means either b plus 2 has to be 0, because then we would have 0 times b minus 6, so 0 times anything equals 0, or b minus 6 has to equal 0, because then we would have b plus 2 times 0, which of course has to equal 0. Okay? This is called the zero product property. So to solve for our variable, we will break it up into two cases. So we've got case 1, as we just discussed, b plus 2 could equal 0. So I'll take this factor and set it equal to 0. In case 2, we would have b minus 6 equals 0. So now I'm going to solve. So change my color up here. So for b plus 2 equals 0, to get the b by itself, we would subtract 2 from both sides. Those would cancel. So we get b equals negative 2. And for case 2, to get the b by itself, we would add 6. So we would get b equals positive 6. So the roots of our quadratic are negative 2 and 6. Okay? So to find roots, all we have to do is make sure our polynomial is in factored form. In this case, we'll be dealing with quadratics. Okay? And we will take our factors and set them equal to 0. So there are a few words that I'll use interchangeably throughout the standard. So roots, zeros, and x-intercepts all mean the same thing. Okay, so if I happen to say zeros or roots or x-intercepts, they all mean the same thing. Okay, so it turns out that these roots that we just found of this factored polynomial actually tell us where this quadratic function, or where this parabola, crosses the x-axis. So this parabola crosses the x-axis at our roots, which are negative 2 and 6. So at this time, you can go on to the example video for roots in factored form.